Hey, Brass Facts here today. We're looking at the Slingster from Ferro Concepts, as well as a couple other slings to demo some points. It's worth noting, when I say sling, I'm referring to double point or 2-point slings exclusively. And unless you're doing hood rat shit with a TP9 or MP5K, or you like self-flagellation and hitting yourself in the nuts, 1-point slings are not really an option, and 3-point slings are, they're a thing, but we're not going to get into that. Slings. You need them, but there are several different ways to use them, and depending on how you use them, this video may not be relevant for you. Most people use slings like slings of old. You put the sling on, and then you use it so your rifle doesn't just fuck off, right? So when you're not using your rifle, you let go and the rifle hangs in front of you, or you sling it around your back. Done. There's another way to use a rifle sling, a more advanced way. I hate using the word advanced here because essentially we're talking about a piece of string attached to your rifle, but yes, there is slightly more advanced ways to use a rifle sling. The sling adjustment feature on the side of most modern slings allows for a quick adjustment, right? And this isn't just to size it to you. You're supposed to size the sling to yourself before using this feature, and then this feature allows you to adjust the sling rapidly while shooting to do a number of things. Mainly stow it on your back, stow it on your chest, or use the sling to assist in shooting, right, in a cinch down style. If you run the sling in the second manner, outside of a flat range, that's where you'll quickly find the Slingster is fundamentally flawed in its design. Alrighty. So, the Slingster on this 14.5 2-point configuration, but I've tested this in a back configuration with one of my other rifles, and all of what I said is true there. I think theoretically, if this was padded, this would actually happen quite a bit more consistently. None of these are padded slings, but it doesn't technically matter. The fact that it can happen is a thing. So real quick, before we get started, holy shit, what the before we get started, let's talk real quick about the circumstance in which you would use an adjustable sling. So, in a scenario when I would use an adjustable sling, I'm generally using a rifle in a situation that isn't too pleasant, and generally my world has gone to shit, right? Because unlike when you're training, you are doing other stuff when you have a rifle out, right? You're not just shooting, you're doing stuff. So let's say I'm shooting and I want to do some admin tasks. Simply use the quick adjust, and now it's cinched onto my shoulder, or my chest. Note this sling is sized. For me, I sized it as if I was wearing a plate carrier, and I'll put that on in a second. It's just really hot today, so I'm going to avoid that. But this allows me to go hands-on and do stuff. Let's say medical, eat a nacho, eat a bunch of nachos, eat a tortilla, whatever you do. Furthermore, I can now, if I want to, sling over my shoulder like so, and boom, now I can do some stuff that is more involved, namely climbing, carrying a very heavy object, right? You don't want a rifle up front when you're carrying a very heavy object. I can do a fireman, right, for obvious reasons. I can do drags. Yeah, really, you can do a lot of things, right? The point is the rifle is now out of the way, and more importantly, it's tightened out of the way. That's important because when you're carrying something, doing whatever, climbing, you don't want the rifle to be just on your back like so, where it can move. Why? Because if you're doing incredibly strenuous activity, your rifle will fucking move around and try to go to, like, whatever the lowest point of energy is, which is directly down. So as you're shifting around, it's going to want to come around, and you're going to do stuff like this, and you're going to be miserable. Best case scenario, the rifle ends up in front of you, and you do a bunch of, it gets in the fucking way. Worst case, you catch yourself on a fence, and you just get stuck there, or you strangle the shit out of yourself. Right? So we want our slings tightened in a way so we can do activities. Got my button coming undone, going full Grantham. Anyway, so that's why we tighten our slings away. I guess technically, let me demo one more technique for fun. I don't really use this technique, but, so right, we're doing stuff, and you can do the over-the-shoulder technique. Oh, there we go, like so. And then you tighten it down like this. The reason I don't like this one is when you come out of it, you end up kind of muzzling everyone behind you. If you're careful about it, you can avoid it. It's just something I don't really want to do. Anyway, let's get into my monkey suit, as John Lovell calls it. Alrighty. So I'm suited up in armor. Why? Because if I'm using a rifle and it's not 2:30 in the morning and I'm doing it for home defense, I'm going to have armor on. Unless the situation dictates I don't have armor on. I'm not subtle, I already have a rifle out, so I might as well have armor on. Okay, let's say I have my setup like this, and I want to do those things I mentioned before. Sling over the shoulder, bring it around, to do various high strenuous tasks, because the situation calls for it. Doesn't matter what it is, pick one of them, rescuing your anime body pillow, whatever. So you come around, you go like this, and you're doing it fast because, you have your rifle out, shit's probably gone to shit. You come back around, you're moving fast here, you're back in it, right? And then, oh fuck, I dropped a Twinkie, gotta save my Twinkie, right? So you gotta sling your rifle, go around like that. And before you know it, things are starting to act weird with your slingster. We'll go around this side this time. You'll notice the sling mounting cam is now on the inside of the track. And if you continue to do this, it will continue to flop back and forth on the outside, inside, outside, inside. And that is very annoying, because I expect this thing to be on the outside, and it's very difficult to tighten things when the cam thing is on the inside. If you force it on the outside, like this, you will exacerbate the issue that is currently developing. And I'll show that on the table. It's really hard to show over here. This isn't some fantasy. This happened to me regularly when I did a tactical games recently. The first time it happened, I was running, what was it like? Like 500 meters to half a mile, something. I don't remember the exact course. The total distance was like 1.5 miles, but we did it in blocks. And when I was running, my sling really started to degrade. What was happening here was happening far worse. Right? This is no longer wanting to adjust. It only goes to a certain point, and it's only getting worse. So this started to this degree on the first leg. I got to my station, unslung, went to work. I did things, and then I had to carry an object or whatever, and then I slung it back up. And every single time I was doing it, it was getting harder and harder and harder, to the point where on the third leg, the final leg, as I was coming back, the sling was down hard. It was basically stuck. See, look, I have to like jiggle it to get it to go now. It was stuck in this position, wound like this 20 times over, and it would not unfuck itself. No matter what I do, I couldn't unsling it because it was forced in that locked up position. And my sling was gone. Is this a devastating scenario? No, it's not devastating, right? You could still work around a sling that is still attached to your rifle as long as it's, you could still work around a sling that's attached to your rifle. You just lost your adjustable functionality and the thing is completely tangled up. But, interestingly, in that exact moment, while I was running, because my sling was very floppy now, and we had to run with our slings on our back, by the way, we didn't have a choice due to rules, the floppiness was bouncing off of my pistol now. And funnily enough, my holster sheared off. And that T-Rex Arms Ragnarok RTI attachment, there. So, RTI system, this is supposed to be attached to this part. It's no longer attached. Honestly, my fault. I should have Loctited the shit out of that thing and checked all my gear, but I didn't, and this problem exacerbated it. Okay, so what is this problem I'm talking about? This is the problem. Look at this shit. What's going on here? Right, the sling somewhat functions at this point, but when you're under tension, let's bring the camera out a bit. When you're under tension, this monstrosity of what's going on does not play well. You saw how hard I had to slam the cam system down to overcome the essentially knot that's now built into the sling. And this is an issue that once it starts, it creates a feedback loop, and it will continue to further add more and more loops into this section of the sling cam system, and it'll get worse and worse and worse. And then you'll hit a point like I did in my anecdote, where the thing in here will be so tangled over, it will closer approximate a rope than it will approximate an actual sling, and the glide system will cease to function in whatever position you happen to run over that knot. Is this fixable? Not in the field, or not in the moment, I should say. You can fix this if you have a moment, calm, and you can slowly work out these knots. You cannot fix it by just unlooping this, because this is on the inside of the sling, right? So let's extend it out, right? This is your sling, right? Full length of the sling. You can't untangle this because it's integrated into the sling adjustment system. You can't untangle this. What you have to do is you have to slowly, first you have to figure out the orientation of the loop, and then fold this over and slowly force it through. Yeah, it's going to take a while. That's something I have to do off of camera. Okay, so this is a different sling. This is a VCAS? VTAC? I confuse them all the time. VTAC, right. This is a VTAC sling. I should have probably used the green one so it's more contrast. But anyway, the point is the VTAC tackles things slightly differently. The Ferro Concept Slingster, this buckle system is attached to this floppy part over here. So when you adjust this one, this loose end gets longer and longer, and as a result, the part that's attached to your rifle gets shorter and shorter, and essentially this is how you're tightening or loosening your rifle. And then when you want it loose, you simply hit this thing, and out comes the other end. Ta-da! This is a very good system, but the issue is, as you can probably tell, you have this flappy lead, and as you get longer and longer, this lead gets longer and longer. And when you're fully cinched down, you have this long, I can't even zoom the camera out long enough, you have this long lead that is out in the wind. And that was annoying. So people have looked to work around this issue. This non-functional Slingster, let's see if we can demo it here, does so by integrating that lead into the adjustment mechanism. And you can kind of see that here. There is no lead on a Ferro Concept Slingster because it's built into the loop, and as this gets longer, instead of this buckle system remaining here, it moves with the excess, keeping it tight to the rifle. There are other slings that accomplish this in the same method that the Ferro Concept Slingster does it, but in slightly different methods. For example, this is technically fundamentally the same as the Ferro Concept Slingster. The glide system, I think they call it the tri-glide, I don't know, it's a stupid name, moves with the excess loop of fabric, and you can adjust it. And then once again, you can see the excess loop is contained in the new length of the sling, even though you're tighter now. The reason why the Ferro Concept Slingster has such a fatal flaw versus these other slings is that the Ferro Concept Slingster has a very thin and narrow, and thus you can simply add a single loop. If you've ever used a sling, you know these loops appear all the time. And you can easily force this, right? Because when you adjust a sling, you do so forcefully. You can easily force this through the thing because the gap is so large. It's enough to allow, you see, I've added a new kink into the sling. Is this fatally flawed? No, I think I mentioned this earlier. No, it really isn't. I can still use the sling, but in a world of $40 pieces of nylon with a piece of metal on it, why would I buy the sling that has a fundamental issue built into it that occurs regularly for me in training? I don't know. That's my personal take. Perhaps it's a little bit harsh, but that's my viewpoint here. Most of this was ad-lib, so I think I'm just an asshole, so I end up more harsher when I'm ad-libbing. Yeah, it's not ideal. Okay, anyway, that's been some sling facts for you. I hope you enjoyed that video and it was at least moderately informative. I'll be seeing you around shortly. I have a panel bridge video coming up, and that should be pretty cool. So, yeah, see you guys around.